Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Imago Nutrition Podcast. My name is Mark, and I am here with Danielle, our registered dietitian extraordinaire, who also happens to be my sister-in-law. Danielle, how are things in your neck of the woods?
They are pretty good. We're wrapping up the swim team season, so
You
summer
guys are always
is
in the water. You're a family of fish, that's for sure. That's for sure. It makes
yeah.
my mom very happy too, because she grew up in the water and definitely instilled a love of water for us as well. So we're in landlocked states, but we still get to the water. So we are tackling an interesting and I think important topic today. This is the podcast where we answer your questions and give you practical nutrition strategies to help you and your family flourish. And so if you are someone who believes that you struggle with willpower as it relates to making healthy decisions, setting healthy lifestyle habits, this, I believe, is going to be a very helpful and important episode for you, if I do say so myself. And so we have a great question. By the way, if you have a question, you can send that to us. We always look forward to hearing from people. That is how we decide on some of these episode topics. And so if you have a question about nutrition, healthy lifestyle, etc., anything we've talked about or something that you're confused about, you keep hearing conflicting information out there on social media, you can send us that question by going to our website, Imago, that's IMAGO Nutrition, so imagonutrition.com/podcast. And so there's a form there. If you just scroll down the page a bit, you can submit your question to us. And Amy in Tennessee did exactly that. So Amy, thank you for that question. I'm excited. I think we are excited to tackle this, especially because this is something that Danielle and I have recently read a book on. And so Amy in Tennessee, excuse me, asked this question. Amy said, "How do I battle a willpower issue? Is there any truth to it being more of a brain issue than just willpower? I want to lose weight and be healthier, but in the moment, I really struggle with making good choices and remembering my goals." So thanks again, Amy. This is a terrific question. This is a huge topic that, of course, we could not do justice in just one episode. We could probably do a 10-part series on this. But what we're hoping to give you today, I've got about 5 big points, and Daniel has some additional considerations as well. So we're going to walk through real quick, just kind of this, just a quick topic about willpower or some thoughts about willpower and self-control. And then I want to give you just kind of 5 things to think about or to consider. Not to overwhelm you with information, but to give you a couple tools that you can utilize in making some of those healthier decisions. So I'll start by saying this on the topic of willpower, which I would couple as an issue of self-control, right? That tends to be what we're discussing as one and the same. So we're going to use those terms interchangeably, willpower or self-control. So sort of the willpower to do what's right or the self-control to do what's right or not do what is, quote, wrong or unhealthy. Okay. And so the good news is this. Okay. The good news is that neuroscience has confirmed that willpower / self-control is not a limited resource. Okay. So I recently heard a quote that went something like this recently. I've been reflecting on it really a lot of this year, is that one of the most important things about you are the stories that you tell yourself, or the story that you tell yourself. And so there are a lot of people that are telling themselves the story. Maybe this resonates with you, Amy, or to our other listeners, is that you've been telling yourself this story that, well, I just don't have willpower. I struggle with willpower. I don't have the self-control like that person that I see or that woman at the gym. I'm just someone that doesn't have that much willpower when it comes to food or healthy lifestyle or fitness, etc. So again, neuroscience has actually confirmed that it's not a limited resource. Okay. And so this is not something, now this may sound shocking, this is not something you can or need to, quote, grow like a muscle, as though you've got a little bit of willpower and with certain techniques you can actually grow it. You actually have, again, this is from neuroscience and behavioral psychology, peer-reviewed research, literature. I'll tell you about a resource here in a second. But what we have concluded in the sciences is that you actually have unlimited willpower, unlimited self-control at your disposal. But here's the key: should you choose to access it? Okay. So no longer do we want to tell ourselves the story that I just don't have willpower. I don't have willpower around this food. I don't have willpower to go to the gym. I don't have the self-control to avoid this. I don't have the self-control to do that. And begin telling yourself that I do have the willpower. I do have the self-control. And how, when, and to what degree do I choose to access it? Okay. And so Danielle and I have recently written. I almost took credit for a book. We have recently read a book that I will refer you to, Amy, if you want to dig deeper into the studies, the research, the experiments that support what I just said, which is that you have unlimited willpower at your disposal. If you're like, that's not true, I would highly encourage you to read this book. The book is The Science of Self-Control by Menno Henselmans. He is my favorite Dutch researcher. Yes, I have a favorite Dutch researcher. And so if you just Google or Amazon search The Science of Self-Control, and you can even just include his first name, Menno, which is Menno, you will be able to find that book. It's fairly inexpensive. It's a paperback. It is an incredible resource on this topic. So all that's to say, before we get into the 5, I just wanted to set the tone and just say that begin washing over yourself with this new reality as opposed to a story that you do have willpower at your disposal. You do have self-control at your disposal. Now the question is, how do you access it? What are your thoughts on that, Danielle? Did I do a good job setting up the topic?
I love it. Yes. I would say one of my favorite things that really clicked when I read that book was, one, we instinctively approach pleasure and avoid pain. And so they described about cognitive conflict and how it's really unpleasant. Things that we don't want to do, essentially. And it says self-control failure occurs not because your willpower is a limited resource, but because your attention shifts from have to goals to want to goals.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that was really a good aha moment, is like your brain is bored. And that's kind of what causes the willpower failure, is not that you have a limited resource. Obviously it's unlimited, but it's the access key is that you have to remember your want to goals too. That has to be your want to goals, and have to goals be very similar, if that makes sense.
It's super powerful. And I love the way that he sets up the book, because within the first chapter or 2 or something like that, I read it a couple months ago, he sets it up by discussing the image of the 2 biggest components of our brain. And so the way that behavioral psychologists and neuroscientists refer to the big, the 2 sections, if you will, departments of our brain is, 1, the emotional elephant, and 2, the rational rider. And that's an image that has stuck in my mind, which is, am I allowing the emotional elephant to do what it pleases, or am I accessing and tapping into the rational rider? And the main difference is that the emotional elephant does what feels good, right, and least amount of friction in the moment. The rational rider thinks ahead, thinks farther out, thinks that may be great right now, but in a week or so, or even tomorrow morning, right? So it's able to have this futuristic perspective as to what is best. And so that's in the very early part of the book. It really sets up, again, some of the neuroscience and some of the behavioral psychology that Menno goes into, but incredibly, incredibly powerful. And so with that, I think I've got 5 ideas, Danielle. So if you don't mind, I'll kind of work us through these. I'll try to do it in an efficient manner, and then would love your feedback, your thoughts as we tackle 5 ways that you can begin to, I think, access this a little bit more in your day-to-day life. And I'll say number 1 is this. Number 1 is to find your why. Okay. And so what I often say with our nutrition clients is, if your why is bigger than your what, the why will get you through the what. Okay. So if you're thinking, I just need to lose weight, honestly, that's a great goal. I am a huge proponent of that as a massive, incredibly important goal. But wanting to lose weight is not a big enough why to actually do it. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to grow your list of whys. Sometimes with clients, I have them actually write out, or at the beginning of our consultations, we actually talk about the why behind the goal of losing weight. We spend time there because if that why is bigger than the why will get you through the what. And now let me give you an example. And I do this with caution because I don't want to seem dramatic or extreme. And it's a bit, Well, it just illustrates the point, if you will. If a doctor came to you and said, you must lose 20 pounds in the next 6 months or you will die, chances are most humans, with or without health, like help or guidance, would just simply figure out how to do it, right? Suddenly they would be willing to pay for nutrition counseling. Suddenly they would be willing to pay for a gym membership. Suddenly they'd be willing to go for walks. They'd be willing to exercise. They'd be willing to consider the foods that they eat or consider how much they're eating. So they would just, you would just, we would just, I would just figure it out. Why? Because the why is so dramatically big in that hypothetical scenario. You need to lose 20 pounds in 6 months or you will die. Suddenly it rises to the top of focus, effort, the need to be consistent, the need to be diligent. Now, I pray and hope that is never the case for anyone hearing this. However, again, it illustrates the point that if the why is big enough, right, the why will get you through the what. And it doesn't have to be that extreme, but I will say the why of wanting to lose weight, there is such a good health reason for that. There's so many. I mean, I think the CDC estimates just about 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. Okay. And compared to people with a healthy body weight, folks that are overweight or obese, which by the way, when we say obese, just remember that's 25+% body fat for men and 32+% for women. It's actually a lot smaller than we think obesity is. But compared to those at a healthy weight or body composition, being overweight or obese puts you at extreme risk, or increased risk, I should say, for serious diseases and health conditions like all-cause mortality, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, stroke, gallbladder disease, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, breathing problems, many types of cancer, lower quality of life, mental health issues, body pain, difficulty. That's not to overwhelm you with a bunch of negativity. It's to say that health benefit of getting your body to a healthy weight is incredibly important. And to keep that in your mind is that I'm doing this for a huge health benefit. If that why is bigger than the why will get you through the what. Okay. And that doesn't have to be the only reason. In fact, I would say there should be a lot of whys. And so again, like with my clients, we really try to pull out and extrapolate what are the many different various dimensions of your why. That could be, look, I want more energy. I want to sleep better. I want to be more productive. I want to live longer for my kids. I love the longevity side of things. I want to be more independent later in life. I want to be more, increase my risk of being disease free. We'll never be perfectly disease free, but you can definitely guard against that. I want more confidence. I want my clothes to feel better. I want to feel this way. I want to feel that way. There's so many different reasons why. And again, finding your why can be, I believe, the first step into tapping that willpower, because if the why is bigger than the why will help you get through the what. Okay. What are your thoughts on that, Danielle?
That's great. I think in the, day to day, in one of the chapters in the book, it talked about food cravings. And so it says how to get over these food cravings is if you decide that certain food is not worth it for you. You over time lose the craving. So that's kind of exactly what that is putting the why in front of the what. Now, most certainly we're not for forbidden foods or having a list of no foods. But just thinking about, it's maybe not what you need every day, or your frequency can be lower if that food is no longer as important to you, because something else is bigger. The why is bigger.
And it's a lot like the financial analogy, right? If you've got financial goals, moving your money around in accordance is a really good thing. Like being on a nice budget, and then you'll start to realize, like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to spend $500 a month eating out. Maybe I just spend $150 a month eating out, and I put that other, a couple $100 toward building wealth or investing or 529s for the kids, right? No one would look at that person and be like, oh, you're being neurotic, you're being over restricted. No, you're being smart with your goals, right? And how you manage your money. And so the same thing, that's why I do love that some of the nutrition tracking apps that we recommend use the term budget. They talk about a daily budget of your calories. And so deciding where you want to spend that budget, including those fun foods, but again, to your point, perhaps it's not as often, it's not in as high a volume, et cetera, is really, really important. So Something to think about, Amy, is again finding your why. And I'd encourage you right now, if you're listening to it, just press pause. Like pull up a note on your phone or a scratch piece of paper in your car and write down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reasons why you want to, per your goals, lose weight or be healthier. And if those reasons are big enough, okay, so dig deep. If those reasons are big enough, the process of losing weight will become smaller and I believe more sustainable. All right, so that's number one, find your why. Number two, this is a favorite of mine, and I'm using the word dumb on purpose, dismantle dumb diet rules. And so, as you know, we do not prescribe or recommend diets with a name. We recommend, nutrition in general, fueling your body in a flexible, sustainable way. But what I have often found is that when clients say, I don't have willpower or I'm struggling with self control, I ask them, I say, what does that look like? What are you trying to adhere to? And it often goes like this. Well, I'm just trying to eat, 1,200 calories. Well, whoa, I don't recommend that. No wonder you're struggling with willpower. You must be hungry, right? I've never, by the way, 15 years, 16 years nutrition coaching, I've never recommended 1,200 calories. I don't. It's roughly the recommended intake of calories for a toddler. I've never worked with a small female client that I have eating less than 1,500 calories, let alone 1,200. So again, or someone might say, oh, I just really struggle with willpower. Okay, what does that look like? Oh, I'm just trying to cut out carbs. Well, I would struggle with that too. I don't think that's the proper course for you. That's you're trying to adhere to something that I wouldn't recommend. Or I'm trying to cut out sugar. I'm trying to cut out sweets. I'm trying to cut out dessert. I'm trying to cut out all processed foods. I'm trying to cut out, eating fun foods at social gatherings. I'm trying to cut out, et cetera, et cetera. And what I would say is your willpower is failing because you're adhering to dumb, unnecessary diet rules. And so don't feel bad about that. The fact that you can't cut out carbs or sugar or all sweets or desserts, that's okay. I haven't removed any of those things from my life. Danielle has not removed those things from her life. Are you kidding me? I love some of those things. Now, we eat them in context. We eat them in moderation. But often I find that willpower issues are actually attached to dumb, unnecessary diet rules. Okay. So just remember that none of those things I listed cause weight gain, and cutting those things out will not inherently equal weight loss. So cutting out carbs, cutting out sugar, cutting out sweets, cutting out dessert, cutting out processed foods will not inherently cause you to lose weight. They can be helpful tools. They can be sustainable, patterns that you might need to build into your nutritional regimen, is thinking a little differently about those things and minimizing or contextualizing. But cutting those out is not necessary to achieve your goal of weight loss or being healthier. Though we always want to take a look at everything in context and in balance. Just remember this. This is it. So again, dismantle dumb diet rules. And just remember, think about what you're attaching willpower to. And just remember as well that there is only one way to lose weight. It's none of those things. It's cutting out none of those things. It's not a single diet you have ever heard of. The only thing required to lose weight is what's known as a negative energy balance. We've talked about this in the past. Long story short, if you consume fewer calories than you expend, on average over time, the body will lose weight. And let me say it another way. If you expend more calories than you consume, on average over time, you will lose weight. I don't recommend this, but you can lose weight eating nothing but pizza and ice cream and cheesecake if you do so in a negative energy balance. You can also gain weight eating nothing but avocados and chicken and broccoli if you do so in the opposite direction of a positive energy balance. So that's the really good news, is that there is way more freedom than diet culture would have you believe. And so anyways, number 2 is dismantle those dumb diet rules that you may be attaching your willpower issues to. Thoughts on that, Danielle? Did I get excited enough?
That's good. Oh, that's well done.
All right, number 3. This one's a little tougher to accept. Okay. So you might be like, yes, good. Finally, I got someone to just tell me I need to quit with all the stupid diets. I hate those things anyways. And then I follow up by saying you need to accept that it's going to take longer than you want. And then it's hard. Why? Because diet culture has sold you can lose 20 pounds next month. And I'm here to tell you it should look more like 4 to 6 to 8 tops. And that seems slow only because you've been conditioned to think that it's slow, not because it's actually slow. Okay, and so just for frame of reference, this is just a general statement. But in general, almost all of my weight loss clients maybe north of 80, 90+%. Nutritionally target between a half pound to a pound and a half of fat loss per week. Now, do some of them end up losing 2? Do some of them end up losing 3? Yes, but that is not because we are crashing their calories. That's not because we are pushing their calories low or cutting out macronutrients or anything like that. That is often because we are targeting a healthy rate of fat loss, a half a pound to a pound and a half. And honestly, within that, probably 75% of my clients target 1 pound, which is a really great, I think, healthy rate of weight loss for most people. Often people will then start increasing their activity, right? And so they increase their activity while at the same time controlling their energy intake, and they can lose more than that per week. However, all that's to say is that accept that it's going to take longer than you want. Don't be thinking weeks, and I dare say don't even be thinking months. You need to be thinking about years. It takes a lot longer to accumulate excess weight than it does to lose weight. That's the good news. Bad news is, and that's not bad news, but what we have to do is reframe our thinking to not believe that we could just simply undo the last 10 to 15 years in 2 to 3 months. Okay, so that's what I would say is just accept that it's going to take longer than you want. All right, I was just on a call with a client this weekend, and I framed this question: if this was going to take you 10 years to accomplish, would you still do it? And her answer was yes. I said, then it's worth it. It's not going to take that long, but you have to mentally say, what I'm doing is worth it, even if it takes 10 years. Don't worry, it's not going to take that long, but you have to be mentally prepared, right, to be in it for the long haul, because this is a process, not a destination. Okay. So, and then the other point I would throw on this too is remember that to not get frustrated in that daily weight fluctuation. Okay. Part of what may be frustrating you and throwing you off is that you feel like you're dieting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're good. You jump on the scale on Thursday and you're up a pound. Screw it. It's not working. You drop the whole thing. Remember that weight should be viewed as an average. Okay. So what I recommend, one tool that I give to all my clients is a spreadsheet. You can create this on your own. Create a simple spreadsheet that has 7 rows, right? 7 cells for each day of the week. And then at the bottom of that, it simply averages those 7 days. You want to take a look at your average weight week to week, not your daily weight. Because what I find is that there's natural daily fluctuations, and people struggle because they think they're doing everything right. And then the scale jumps 2 pounds for a litany of reasons, by the way. Tons of different reasons your body can do that. And your body weight should fluctuate every day, multiple times a day. But one of the biggest things I've seen is that people are struggling to adhere to is this idea that their weight should go down every single day, week after week. By the way, if your weight goes down every single day, week after week, it's what we call a medical emergency. You need to go to the doctor. That's not normal. It's not healthy. Your body should go up and down day to day, week to week, but you want to look for that trend over time. So again, number 3, Amy, accept that it's going to take longer than you want and prepare yourself for that patient process to unfold. Any thoughts on that, Danielle?
Yeah, I guess taking longer than you want. It's also, you're not going to really stop the habits that you're getting into. So more so framing your mindset to think like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. This is not, I'm going to lose weight and then go back to what I was doing prior. It's like, this is a new lifestyle for me. These are new habits for me that I want to continue for the rest of my life. So,
100%.
So it is 10 years or more.
Absolutely. And that's what I often tell people, especially when we talk about activity, right? So we dial in their nutrition, and we also talk, for every weight loss client that I work with, we also talk about activity, whether it's strength training, cardiovascular training, non-training specific activity, sleep, rest, recovery, stress management, et cetera. But I tell them, if someone comes to me, he's like, all right, I want to lose weight. Should I start running 5 miles a day? I'm like, do you like to run 5 miles a day? Like, no, that sounds terrible. I'm like, then don't do that. Right. But if someone comes to me, he's like, I love running. Yeah, I got a weight loss goal. I love running 5 miles a day. Then continue to do that. The common denominator is not, any one specific activity. The common denominator should be, what do you want to do? And if you can't imagine yourself doing it until you're 90 or your body doesn't allow you to anymore, don't spend any time worrying about it now. Find what you love to do. Like, I love to strength train 4 or 5 days a week. I love to play soccer 1 to 3 times a week. And if my body will allow me, I will do that until the day I die. I would love to do that, right? And if someday I can't play soccer anymore, I'm going to find something else I love to do. That's how I love to do cardio. I love playing soccer. For me, if I'm going to be running, might as well just get a ball and try to put it into a big box, right? And so all that's to say, do what you love and find what you love. That's why attaching to some system, or someone else's view of the best activity to lose weight can be so detrimental, because it wears you out. So find what you love to do. If you love going for walks every day, do that. If you love going for jogs, if you love biking, you love hiking, you love playing soccer with your kids, you like swimming, you guys like do that. That's the activity that you should be gearing toward, not some arbitrary rule that someone else has set out. Okay. So accept that it'll take longer than you want is number 3, and build those sustainable habits, because yes, it's going to take longer than you want, but you want to build the habits that will last the rest of your life. Okay. Number 4, ditch the all or nothing mindset. Okay. I believe this is one of the most detrimental mindsets to have. What it creates is a binge and restrict cycle. You're either on or you're off. You're either dieting or you're not. You're either during a weekday or it's a weekend. You see this vast difference between what you should do at times and the other stuff that you do other times. And I think that's highly detrimental. And a lot of times, again, our willpower is being attached to this idea that, well, this is perfect progress, right? Or this is perfection in the weight loss process. And then there's all the other stuff that I might want to do. And you're attaching that willpower issue. You're clinging, white knuckling to something that you don't have to submit to, which is this all or nothing mindset. Okay. So what I tell people, one of the easiest ways that one trick in this, or not trick, one tip is to on purpose, include your favorite foods. That is one of the most effective tools, simple tools that I've seen to help break down the all or nothing mindset. I'll give you one quick example. I worked with a single mom on her weight loss journey. She had a pretty nasty divorce. Her life, as she said, and she's allowed me to share some of these details, kind of spiraled out of control for a couple years before she called and said, I want to take control of my health. I want to get to a better place. And so she lost 24 pounds in exactly 6 months. I have the chart to prove it. And here's the cool thing, was that her thing was cookies. She loved cookies. She's got 2 daughters. They're both Girl Scouts. Like, she's always got access to cookies, right? She could not believe at the start of this process that I said, you need to include those cookies into your regimen. And for her, that was nightly, to have a couple of those cookies every single night. See, in the past, she couldn't have those because she was losing weight. And eventually she wanted those things and would then overeat those things. So what we said is, hey, along with some other, contextual considerations, purpose to have those as frequently as you need. As I sort of joke, just whatever helps you keep your sanity in this process. I have those foods when I'm in a fat loss phase. And so she purposed and lost weight consistently for 6 months and got to a place where she is far healthier, far happier, far more confident, and in control of her health outcomes as much as she can be, because she purposed to include foods that she thought were off limits when she was prior in an all or nothing mindset. Okay. And so just remember, this is a process. It's not about adhering to perfection. So I would say purpose to include some of your favorite foods. Danielle, thoughts on that?
It's in the book. It's on the forbidden fruit effect. So it's like exactly what we've talked about, to not have a list of forbidden foods in your minds, because that just increases your cravings, really. So,
yep.
Yeah.
It's a great book. It's a great book. And again, that book is The Science of Self-Control. We're not paid by Menno. If he reaches out and wants to thank me personally, I would love that. But we're not on his payroll. We're not selling his books. We're not getting commission. It's just a terrific resource, The Science of Self-Control by Menno Henselmans. So with that, let me wrap up by saying this, number 5, and this is a big one, which is kind of a culminating moment to, I think, to all of this, which is number 5. So number 4 was ditch the all or nothing mindset. Number 5 is focus on the habits more than the goal. Okay. And just a quick anecdote. I've recently begun learning a new language. I have wanted to learn a new language, and that language is Italian, since I went to Italy at the end of high school. So that was 1998, 1999. I've been talking about learning Italian for way longer than I would like to admit. And it dawned on me that I need to actually do it. So here's the analogy. I am learning to appreciate some of the things that I teach people on the nutrition and fitness side in a whole new way, right? Because I could wake up every day, and I just started less than a week ago. I started learning Italian. I've already learned a lot about myself, and the lessons that I've taught, because I'm, quote, fluent in nutrition, I'm fluent in fitness. Those are natural languages for me that I've been preaching and teaching for 20 years. Italian is not. And so what I'm having to do is learn and relearn and really absorb the messages, like focus on the habits more than the goal. I could wake up every day and say, I need to learn Italian, I need to learn Italian, I need to learn Italian. And that's great. Instead, I'm waking up and saying, I need to spend my 15 minutes working with my learning app. And then I want to do 5 more minutes with a podcast that I found that does a 5-minute lesson. So I get both sort of like the academic work in the app, and then I get the language. There's a couple that does a great podcast, and they just teach 5-minute lessons. And that's my 20 minutes a day. And that's what I'm focusing on. That's what works. That's what I am now bringing to the surface of my day. I'm carving out time. I'm creating space, whether I'm in the car, whether I'm, doing my morning sunlight viewing out back with my breakfast. I'm finding the time that makes sense. So I'm not just waking up, so I got to learn talent. I got to learn talent. I need to spend my 15 minutes today plus my 5 when I can, right? And so learn those habits that help you reach that goal eventually, and focus more on those than the goal. Okay. And so there's a great quote from FM Alexander. It's one of my favorite quotes. It says, people do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. And so if we were to take inventory of your habits, would you be able to show me on paper that you are mapping your habits to your goal? Okay. And so this is what we work on with all our clients, weight loss clients, family nutrition clients, whether they're diabetes care clients, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, what it is, it's really about instilling sustainable habits. You're not going to come meet with us and we're not going to give you the one thing you need to know and now your whole life has changed and here it is and you're done. It's not going to happen that way. It's going to be about building sustainable habits. And so I love working on this with people. We love looking at nutritional habits. We look at activity habits. We look at things like rest and recovery and stress management. All of that is about, again, learning this new language of a healthier you on your way to your goals. Okay. So that's number 5, is focus on habits more than goals, or the goal. It doesn't mean it's bad to have goals, but it is to say that if you were to spend the next 365 days building new habits that would lead to your goal, what would that look like? So any thoughts on that, Danielle?
I think I would just say that the goal part is when you said I need to learn Italian, it's almost like a lot of stress or pressure or urgency.
Mm-hmm.
And then that, doesn't really help with your goal to have all those other things that you just mentioned, is making it sustainable and expecting it to take longer. So if you are thinking like that, you're not doing the other ones that you mentioned, I guess is what I was trying to say.
It's so true. And so I set up this app, on Tuesday. It was the 4th of July. Was that Tuesday? Yeah, it was last Tuesday. And it was, and again, I'm learning and living my own messages. And so the app says, like, how long until you want to be independent? And I was like, I'm just going to put a year, right? Like, I honestly even think that's fast. Like, I also, by the way, I should also say another lesson. I'm like, now I'm relearning, like, I don't have a destination. I put in the app a year. If I do 15 minutes a day for a year, what would that look like? And I was like 7 days a week. I was like, I want to just build this. I can adjust at any time, but I just want to build this into my life right now. But also, so one, it's like a year later. So if this is a weight loss context, it's like, okay, just map it to a year. People are like, oh, that's too long. And then you start talking about, well, you should be mapping this to the rest of your life, which is what I'm doing. I'm like, this is just the first year of this process. I mean, anyone that's fluent in multiple languages know you're never done learning. You're always learning new cultural components, intonation components, slang, different dialects in the same country within the same language. I mean, there's just this wealth of knowledge to be gained over the course of a lifetime. And that's the process, right? And so it finally dawned on me that I've just been looking at this daunting, like, learn a language, and you think about what that looks like in sum total. Like, oh my gosh, I wasn't that great at language. Like, I did it in high school and college, and that was French, and I barely got through, and blah, blah, blah.
There's telling your story.
I'm just telling the story. I'm not good at learning languages. I'm more of this type of person. I'm a prophet. I've got this, that, and the other. I've got too much going on. I just tell myself this story over and over. But then when I sat down and said 15 minutes a day for the next year, I could be farther in a year than I have gotten in the last 20 years. And that's the mindset. And so all that's to say, focus on the habits as we wrap up more than the goal. And then I would say last, but not last, not like a 6, but just remember to return to your why. All of this goes all the way back to your why. Why do you want to accomplish this goal? If your why is bigger than your what, your why will get you through The what. So, Amy, I hope this has been helpful. This is a great question. Thanks for bringing this up. I was excited to prepare some thoughts. And so, if you were encouraged by this or anything of the sort, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast so that you get notified of upcoming episodes. Feel free to drop us a review. Would love to hear from you on how we're doing and what you thought of this episode, and share it with a friend. So if you've got a friend that you can talk to about this, I love accountability partners. I love working with your spouse or listening to this type of content as you're grappling with some of these health considerations and questions. Share it with a friend or a family member or a spouse, and we would also just love to help as many people as possible. And so, if you're on social media, you can follow us. We are at Imago Nutrition. That's IMAGO Nutrition across all your favorite social media platforms. And as always, a big thanks to Happy Pill for our theme song, Thinkin Bout Food. We'll see you next time.